Hey, what's up, my friends? JT DeBold is with you today for the Elite Marketing Pro Daily Dose of Awesome, your 15 minutes of inspiration, education, and motivation to help you get your day started off right. Today is Friday. Stoked to be with you to close out another big week here in the EMP community, and grateful as always to come at you. So as you're jumping out, let me know where you are tuning in from. And as you do, let me welcome you by saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thanks for joining us here each and every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. It is always a privilege and an honor to share some airspace with my high-altitude buds out there in the EMP community. Lots of cool people coming out here, saying hello to Larlin Newman. What's happening, my girl? Sally Crow's in the house. Luke Burrows, what's happening? Melinda Sailors here from Central Pennsylvania. Good to see you. Patrick Gray coming in from Columbus, Georgia. Sally Tamar Prague. Hey, what's up, girlfriend? Good to see you out there in the UK. Hopefully you're staying dry. Carrie Hyam, my sister from another mister. I love you, miss you. Can't wait to see you here in a couple weeks. Good to see you. Michelle Kind, Fran Lobser, hopefully I'm saying your name correct, Fran. I apologize if I butchered that one. Susan Denise, good to see you. Aaron Faye, what's happening? Good to see you all. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys joining us here. Today I want to talk to you about 4 toxic words that you want to avoid. And I want to preface these words by saying literally pretty much everybody says these. I actually caught myself saying it just the other day. And so we're going to talk about not just what those words are, but really the reason for avoiding them altogether, especially as you're building your business. If you want to be successful in business and life, these are 4 words you got to be very, very careful about, specifically when you use them to talk about yourself, to talk about your business, or to talk about the industry that you're building that business in. Here, we could talk about that with network marketing. You could talk about it with real estate. You could talk about it with literally anything. So anything that's worth doing, obviously, is going to take some time. Would you agree? And a lot of times what we hear people do is they get frustrated because they haven't had a result in the time that they want to get it in. They have a very specific idea of what they want to achieve with their business, and they think to themselves, man, I'm going to get this done in the first 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. I'm going to get it done in the first year. I'm going to get it done in a certain amount of time. And when it doesn't happen for them, they start to freak out. They start to panic. And then these 4 specific words start to come into play. So what are those 4 specific words that I'm referring to? Well, the 4 words that I'm referring to are always, never, everybody, and nobody. Now let's talk about those. And by the way, if you've ever heard yourself saying these words as it applies to your business, pay close attention. Let me give you an example. Let's start with the first word, nobody. Nobody is not a person, okay? It's not even a group of people, because it's actually not true. Now, you might say to yourself, well, nobody lives on the moon or nobody lives on the sun, and there's some accuracy to that, I suppose. But when we're talking about our business, all right, when we're talking about our dream, to assume that nobody has done it or nobody's succeeding, I recently heard somebody say, well, nobody's making any money, which is completely false. It's not even close to being true. What happens? What's the danger behind saying nobody or everybody or never or always? If you know what the danger is or have a sense for what that danger is, I want to see you type it into the comment section here, because it's really important that we engage on this conversation. I really want you all to understand this. And you specifically, as you're sitting there listening to this message, ask yourself how many times you've said to yourself, well, this never works, or I always do this. And I'll give you a very real world example. Just the other day, I caught myself sort of doing the same thing. What happened was, I come in out of the garage of our house and into the house, and I would catch my right hip on a box that we have sitting just inside as you first walk in the door. And I said to myself, damn, I always hit that thing. Well, right there and then I've set myself up for at least failure on some level, and the failure being that I'm going to continue knocking into that thing with that mindset, correct? And so I caught myself and actually laughed about it. I was like, that's kind of funny to say that, because it's not true. I don't always hit that thing. In fact, really, I probably hit it 30% of the time. If I had to gauge it, which I haven't measured it, there's no way for me to actually know accurately how many times I've hit that stupid thing, but I've certainly not hit it always. That's just not even true. But it was interesting that I caught myself saying, man, I always walk into that thing. What's the danger behind that? I'm curious. I want to see this. Kevin Kewen, or I say Chuck Kewen. Sorry, Chuck. It's a ridiculous absolute. That is true. That's the word I was looking for. It's awesome that you nailed it. It's an absolute. And what's interesting about that is when we operate from a place of absolutes, we're coming from a place of certainty. Now, I have to tell you, there's a lot of danger in coming from a place of certainty. And how come that's the case? What is it about certainty that can be dangerous and even detrimental to our success? I'll let you guys kind of chime in on this, but I'll give you kind of a primer on this. There's a difference between certainty and clarity. All right. If we come from a place of certainty, Noella says it's a negative. Well, guess what? In a way, it can be. But even if we're coming from a place of saying a positive thing where we think, oh man, I always win or I always succeed, that can be a very positive thought to have, right? But if we're coming from a place of certainty, even if it's a thing that is a positive in our lives, it becomes a blind spot. And here's really the reason for that. The first and foremost thing is when we come from a place of certainty, are we open or are we closed? Think about that. Are you open-minded? If you're certain about something, 100% certain, are you open-minded about it? Or have you already made your mind up and are you closed-minded to it? Just think about that. Lisa Gentile says inflexible. Perfect. It's a great way of saying it. David Barr says certainty means you're not open. Totally. Laurelyn says we're closed. Exactly. And here's the challenge with that. If you're closed-minded to something, if you're not open-minded to other possibilities or other options, what have you done to yourself? You've literally limited yourself. Now, is that the way you want to live your life? Is that the way you want to build your business, from a place of limitation? Or do you want to give yourself the best options possible? Do you want to give yourself the ability to be wide open and have limitless options? That's a challenge. That's a question we have to ask ourselves on a daily basis. And what's interesting about this is, and I can see people typing in here, yeah, we're closed off. And here's what's interesting about that. How often do we catch ourselves saying, well, I always do this, or I would never do that, right? Or everybody's succeeding but me, or nobody's succeeding. When we start using those words, we're coming from a place of absolutes. And when we come from a place of absolutes, we're coming from a place of certainty, which means we're coming from a place of being closed off. So it's very important that we catch ourselves in this. Our words are really the window to the soul. If you guys have been to any of the workshops, when Carrie and I are teaching this, we talk about the fact that, there's sort of a belief cycle or a performance cycle where our beliefs drive our thoughts and our thoughts drive our words. And what's interesting is you can actually, people will say, well, the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, guess what? I know plenty of people who are highly trained to be able to go through interrogations, for instance. And so they're trained to kind of fake it so that you can't tell what's going on behind those eyes, what's going on inside their head. So it's possible to actually put up a false front. So the eyes aren't necessarily the window to the soul, but the words certainly are. I can tell a lot about a person, especially an entrepreneur, about how they believe about themselves, what they think about their business, what they think about their product, what they think about their industry, simply by the words they use to describe themselves and to describe their business. And so you got to be very careful about those. Words have a lot of power. So if we're saying to ourselves, well, I always flop on my first go, or my ads never convert, right? Or nobody's making any money, or everybody's making money but me. When we're using those four poisonous words, all of a sudden we've put ourselves into a stuck state. We are literally stuck in neutral, going nowhere. Now, if this is making sense for you, if you're getting this, I want you to give me a 1 in the chat box. If this is making sense. And on the other side, if you're saying, JT, this is total BS, you're missing the mark, go ahead and give me a 2. I'm open to that because I don't want to come from a place of certainty. I want to know, is this actually working for you? So 1 means yes, I'm totally getting this. I agree with what you're saying. Number 2 says, dude, you lost me on this one. I'm not getting this, and it's not making sense to me. I'm actually asking because I want to know. Lots of people saying 1, that's awesome. And just in case anybody's saying 2 and you don't feel like saying that publicly, let me clarify a couple things. When we talk about everybody, how difficult is it to be clear on that? Well, everybody else is making money. Everybody else is succeeding, or everybody says X, Y, and Z. Is it possible to be able to know all 7 point whatever billion people on planet Earth? The answer, of course, is no. Is it possible to know every single person, even if we just talk about our industry? Or listen, even if we're just talking about EMP, Elite Marketing Pro, is it possible to know the situation for every single person in that company? Because you'll probably agree that the cross-section of society, all 7 point whatever billion people on the planet Earth, there's only a fraction, a small fraction of those people that are actually actively building a business, even here in EMP. So is it possible to say, well, everybody in EMP is succeeding, or everybody or nobody is succeeding? Is it possible to know either one of those absolutes? The answer is no. And so we have to ask ourselves, am I limiting myself? Am I holding myself back from my possibilities? And the answer, of course, to that is a resounding yes. This is how come it's so important for us to get crystal clear on the fact that there is no everybody and nobody. There is no always and never. It just doesn't happen. Now you might say it's never going to be, you can never set foot on the sun. Okay, fine. We can go there. I'm talking about business though. I'm talking about your business, your life. Now you might say, I will never quit. Again, you got to be careful about these things. It's great to have an absolute belief in yourself and say, listen, I'm somebody who absolutely refuses to quit. That's different than saying I never quit. There might be certain things you need to quit, right? Maybe you need to quit the obsession over perfection. Maybe you need to quit the obsession over hustle. Maybe you need to quit the beating yourself up with negativity, right? There are certain things that you want to quit. So to say I never quit is an absolute that may or may not serve you. Now, you might say to yourself, I'm somebody that has the determination. I'm somebody that has the discipline. I'm somebody who has the vision, the follow through, whatever it takes to succeed in this business. And that, my friends, that's coming from a place of being open. That's coming from a place of clarity. Because the big difference between clarity and certainty is when we're certain, we're closed. When we're clear, we're open. When we're clear, we're curious. We're asking the questions, what might I do to succeed? And so if you ever find yourself saying, well, nobody's succeeding in this, the question we might ask ourselves is that true? And if we say to ourselves, well, it might be true, the question is, can we be clear and certain, or I should say, can we be clear that it is absolutely true? If you're saying to yourself, always, never, everybody or nobody, and you ask yourself, is that true? Then you have to go back and say, can I be absolutely positive? Can I be 100% sure that that is true? And if the answer to that is no, then guess what? Always, never, nobody, and everybody all of a sudden becomes a moot point. It becomes irrelevant. And now we're starting to get to a place of certainty, or I should say clarity. And here's what's interesting about that. Now we're actually getting curious because the question is, okay, how many people are succeeding? And the better question to that is, who freaking cares? Who cares who's succeeding, who's not succeeding? The question is, are you succeeding? That's the only thing that matters. Because if you're succeeding, if you're moving forward, if you're growing, if you're improving, if you're getting better every single day, you, my friend, are a success. And that's all that really matters. All the results that you want will come to you if you're on the path to getting better every single day. Doesn't matter whether it's a fitness goal, doesn't matter whether it's a relationship goal, doesn't matter whether it's a financial goal, a business goal. If you're on the path and you're working at it every single day, you're putting some time, I don't care if it's 5 minutes. If for 5 minutes every single day you improve, then you're better than you were yesterday, which means you've just upped your odds to success that much more. Now, granted, this is a compounding sort of thing, which is great news to anybody who's committed to success, anybody who's committed to excellence. Because if you put 5 minutes in every single day and you get slightly better, what happens if you put 50 minutes or 2 hours into it? You can start to see that starts to grow on itself, just like compound interest grows from 1 penny up to several $1 million over a very short period of time. The point to it is this: we have to get past this idea of always and never. We have to stop thinking in terms of absolutes like everybody and nobody. And we really have to start thinking about what is it I can do right here, right now that will actually move me forward. Because it's not true that nobody's succeeding or everybody is succeeding. It's not true that you always fail or you never win. It's not true at all. The simple fact of the matter is you can go back in your own history and find plenty of evidence of where you've succeeded in the past. And the better question is, what might I do to take the lessons of that success, even if it's completely tangential, even if it has nothing to do with business, and how can I apply that to my business life here? I look back on my experience as a military aviator and as a military leader, and I can tell you 100%, even though the military is very dissimilar to business, there are a lot of similarities. And when I could start to put those things together, start to distill those lessons down and put them into what I did and do in my business, it makes a huge ramp, a huge jump in my performance as an entrepreneur. My challenge to you is, what have you done in the past that succeeded? What do you do currently right now that's working for you? And how can you do more of that to get the results so you don't have to say, well, I never succeed, or everybody else is succeeding and I'm not. When we get ourselves out of that absolute mindset and start getting ourselves curious, start getting ourselves empowered, start getting ourselves equipped, then we can start making bigger progress. Does this make sense? If this is making sense, give me a high five in the chat box. I want to see this. I want to see how many folks are out there that are really getting this. James Robert Leach, dude, if I just butchered your name, I apologize, man. He says they're open to trying new skills. I love that statement, by the way. Open to trying new skills, because when we're open, that means, listen, I've not tried this in the past. Haven't tried it to this point, but I'm going to try it right now. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to give my best effort right here, right now, and I'm going to take some data points. And if it works, great. Can I duplicate it? If it doesn't work, what might I do different? How might I tweak to get it to work? And you try it again and again and again until you get enough data points to ask yourself, is it actually working? As opposed to, well, it never works. By the way, there was a statement made by one of my good friends, Kate McShay, on a Facebook Live, and this was way back. It was a while back. My wife, Mia, actually reminded me of this. And she was talking about how when we sit back into our kind of stuck states and we're saying to ourselves, well, this doesn't work, this never works, or whatever, but we're looking at other people that succeed, and we're saying, well, they succeeded, we're forgetting how much time and effort they put into it. In fact, we're kind of disrespecting their success. There are a lot of folks like Carrie and Whit Hyam who have spent years plowing through the tough times to get to where they are now. There are people like Brandy Shaver. There are people like Kate McShay. There are people like TJ Irway and Fernie Ceballos and Matt Crystal and all these amazing people we have to look at as examples of what it takes to be successful. But what we forget is how much time it actually took them. We cannot disrespect their journey by saying it doesn't work just because it hasn't worked for us yet. What we have to say is, hey, man, I'm about to be the next version of me, not the next TJ Irway or the next Carrie and Whit Hyam. I'm not going to be the next them. I'm going to be the next me. I'm going to do everything I can right here, right now, today by asking myself that one question: what might I do differently? What's working now? What hasn't worked in the past? And what might I do differently? And when we think about it in terms of that, we're evaluating, we're curious, and we're actually moving forward to a place of being resourceful. And you've heard us say that a lot, and it's something I'm really passionate about here, and I want you to get this, okay? Especially going into the weekend where you got a few days to kind of think about your business, especially if you build your business on the weekend. Fewer distractions, right? You don't have the stuff that comes about from a regular work week. These 2 days or whatever your weekend looks like, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, maybe your weekend is a different set of days. The point is this: if you have time to sit back and really reflect on your business, ask yourself this: am I coming from a place of absolutes? Am I coming from a place of certainty, whether that certainty serves you or not? And ask yourself, is that really serving me and working the way I want it to work? If the answer is no, then it's time to get clear, it's time to get curious, and it's time to get out there and start changing things up. My friends, I believe in you. I know that you've got big things coming down the road for you, but it takes doing things slightly different sometimes than we've done it in the past. And sometimes that means dropping the always, the never, the everybody, and the nobody. So be careful about how you speak about yourself. Be careful and aware of how you talk about your business and how you talk about your results. And remember, it's not just about the results, it's about the process and how you approach that on a daily basis. In fact, even a minute-by-minute basis. And don't come from a place of judgment, but rather come from a place of evaluation and a place of appreciation, because this is a pretty awesome journey. Would you agree? It's amazing that we have the freedom and the ability to build our own business on our own terms. So get out there and remember that. Make it happen today and every single day. All right, my friends, well, that just about does it for today's message. It is Friday, which means that we'll be back with you tomorrow, or I should say on Monday. We'll be back here on Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Daily Dose of Awesome. If this message landed for you, if there was something about it that you just needed to hear and you think other people might need to hear it as well, get out there and share it wide and far. Hit the share button, share it on your Facebook pages, share it everywhere that you know that people who need to hear this message can hear it. And make sure you come back here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Give us a like here on Facebook, by the way, facebook.com/Elite Marketing Pro, so you can stay connected to everything we're doing here in the EMP community. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, and fly far. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.